Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at some insane spice battles featuring XL level 50 CHINCHOU in the Great League. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, so many thanks for the battle submission. XL CHINCHOU, much like Lantern, is a water and electric type Pokemon with the moveset of Spark, Thunderbolt, and Bubble Beam. This trainer pairs it up with a Lantern and a Salazzle and has some nice sets. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out XL CHINCHOU in action in the Great League. Nice lead in the first match, Salazzle into Galvantula. Opponent safe switches into a Alolan Marowak, banks a Poison Fang on Salazzle, and brings in Water Gun Lantern. Lantern does have a dominating matchup against AWAC. AWAC fires off a Shadow Bone. Lantern tanks it, farms up, but unfortunately loses CMP. Lantern is quite tanky. It's going to be able to absorb the Shadow Bone and fire back with the Surf. Unfortunately, did get the defense drop. Surf gets a shield, a Alolan Marowak trying to make a play for switch advantage, but Lantern says no, able to reach a second Surf. Opponent decides to let it go, and they've lost switch advantage and shield advantage. Galvantula able to farm down. In comes Salazzle. In the back, they have a Azumarill, and things are setting up perfectly for CHINCHOU to close out this game. Firing off the first Poison Fang, firing off the second. Azu may honestly have to shield this, and they do. And now it is 2-shield XL CHINCHOU time. CHINCHOU doesn't have to shield a move, but have 2 shields, may as well use them. Commits the shield, going to continue to farm up. Azu gonna fire off a move. It looks like Azu is running Ice Beam and Hydro Pump, meaning they are fully walled by CHINCHOU. CHINCHOU overfarms quite a bit. Thunderbolt is gonna be taking out the Azu. Back in comes Galvantula, and CHINCHOU is going straight for the Bubble Beam. This is their final Pokemon. They're not going to be able to reset the debuff. That does a solid chunk of damage. Galv fires off a move. CHINCHOU, wanting to try and finish the fight, commits the shield, actually switches into Salazzle, and the Galvantula is forced to throw a move. That's perfect, because that has now gotten it into a range where CHINCHOU will be able to take it out. Had the Thunderbolt loaded, but chooses to go for one more Bubble Beam. Bubble Beam plus the Spark takes out the Galvantula, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, picking up a bit of a tricky lead, Salazzle into Nidoqueen. Salazzle staying in, farms up to the Dragon Pulse, and baiting with the Poison Fang, hoping to try and get the shield. Nidoqueen calls the bait, but then throws on alignment, giving Salazzle an entire free Incinerate. Salazzle calls the bait back, Nidoqueen able to reach a second Fang. Salazzle will need to respect this one. Salazzle farming up, banks 2 Poison Fangs, brings in Lantern, and is able to snipe with Water Guns. That is fantastic. In comes Defense Deoxys. Lantern firing off the Surf. 2 Surfs plus Water Guns should just about KO here. Surf able to land. Deoxys is going to fire back with Thunderbolt. This is going to hit for some heavy neutral damage. Lantern tanking it, farming up, firing off this Surf. This should just about take out the Deoxys here. Surf goes unshielded. Deoxys lives on 1 HP, but in the back, there's a Scrafty, and 2-shield Scrafty is extremely dangerous. Firing off another Surf, Scrafty decides to let it go, and farms all the way down. They do have 2 Poison Fangs loaded on the Salazzle, accidentally clicks in Incinerate, and that's not great, because I don't believe they're going to be able to get the second Poison Fang off, and now it's all up to CHINCHOU. Can XL CHINCHOU close out the game? Scrafty lands the foul play. Scrafty firing off another move. CHINCHOU lets it through, just a power-up punch. At this point, Scrafty makes a beautiful catch, catching the Bubble Beam onto Defense Deoxys. Oh my goodness. Back in comes the Scrafty. Scrafty's just going to be going straight for the power-up punches. Can CHINCHOU spark down? CHINCHOU farms down the Scrafty, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Salazzle into Obstagoon. Fairly neutral lead, Salazzle is going to stay in here. Obstagoon throws on alignment, which gives Salazzle an entire free Incinerate. That is fantastic for Salazzle. Salazzle now has the back-to-back Poison Fangs, firing off the first. Poison Fang gets no shielded, a safe switch into Lantern. These Water Guns doing a lot of damage to Obstagoon. Obstagoon is going to fire off a move. They go for the Night Slash, they get the boost, and they stay in to deal some extra boosted counter damage. Opponent has a Skarmory in the back, they must be incredibly weak to water electric types if they're bringing in Skarmory here. Thunder does get the shield. I mean, if they're this weak, almost feels like it's worth shielding the Lantern, because Lantern should be able to grab a final shield with the Thunder. His Lantern will be able to outpace here, and now the Skarmory has a tough choice to make. Do they commit the final shield? They do. They are putting it all on the Skarmory, and there's a switch into CHINCHOU. You may have thought you got rid of the first water electric type, but there is another one. CHINCHOU, farming up, unfortunately just gets outpaced by the Skarmory. Skarmory fires off the Sky Attack. CHINCHOU is going to be going for the Bubble Beam. Bubble Beam will get the Skarmory very low and should put it into Spark down range. Skarmory stays in, gets farmed down. What is in the back? It is Nidoqueen. Going to be firing off Bubble Beam after Bubble Beam here, hitting for super effective damage, and of course debuffing the Nidoqueen as well. CHINCHOU firing off this second Bubble Beam. That's going to be getting the Nidoqueen quite low. Brings in the Lantern, the switch into Salazzle, and the catch. Very nicely done. And now it's all up to Lantern. Can Lantern get to a Surf? Lantern is quite low, so this will be close. Lantern shields with the Poison Fang, farming up, and able to reach the Surf. That will be game over. Surf takes out the Nidoqueen, and Lantern clutches a close game. Great lead in the next match, Salazzle into Frostlass. These Incinerates are going to hurt. Frostlass staying in, taking massive damage, going straight for the Poison Fang. This is going to be resisted, but it's going to help ramp up that Incinerate damage more and more. Frostlass fires off an Avalanche, barely able to hang on and farm down. Salazzle leaves with a Poison Fang, and he's just going to blind fire the Poison Fang into the Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen is going to be able to farm down, but now the Nidoqueen gets aligned with the Lantern. And Lantern does take super effective damage from Earth Power, so has to be careful of that, but the Water Guns are really going to add up. Lantern commits the shield and correctly shields the Earth Power. In the back, it's Medicham, and that is a little scary. Banks a bunch of energy, brings in CHINCHOU. The difference in bulk between CHINCHOU and Medicham is so extreme. Psychic deals a ton of damage. CHINCHOU is going to fire off the Bubble Beam, debuffing the Medicham. Medicham, not familiar with the moveset, commits the shield, and they're going to fire off another move. CHINCHOU honestly did its job fairly well there, able to get a shield and a debuff. Back in comes Lantern. Lantern fires off the Thunder. Thunder, big damage onto the Medicham. Lantern not quite able to farm down. Lantern commits the shield on the Psychic. And now the question is, can Lantern get rid of the Nidoqueen here? This is going to be close. Surf gets the shield. Nidoqueen farming up. Nidoqueen is able to reach a move. Is it the Earth Power? It is not. Just a Poison Fang. Lantern farms down, leaves with the move, but the game doesn't register it, and it's a heartbreaking loss. Hopping into the next match, letting Salazzle into another Galvantula. This Galvantula is choosing to stay in, and they are taking massive Incinerate damage to do so. Poison Fang gets a shield from Galv. Galv throws their move on alignment, giving Salazzle another free Incinerate. They go for the lunge to debuff Salazzle, and then in comes Medicham. Even debuffed, this Dragon Pulse is going to hurt. Dragon Pulse able to connect onto the Medicham, and then in comes Lantern. Lantern will be able to absorb Medicham's energy quite nicely. Medicham fires off the Psychic. That does not even do half. Lantern is going to fire off the Surf. This should just about take out the Medicham. Medicham commits the final shield, trying to make a play for switch advantage. Tough decision to make. Lantern is going to commit the shield and more than likely look to try and farm down. Medicham switches out. In comes Altaria. Lantern on very low HP, able to reach the Thunder. This will do some solid neutral damage, but unfortunately Lantern is going to get farmed down and things are looking a little rough here. Tough decision to make. Waiting the timer. Brings in Salazzle. Switch and a beautiful catch of a Sky Attack onto CHINCHOU. Absolutely incredible play. CHINCHOU farming up, needing to reach the Thunderbolt. Barely outpaced by Altaria. Sky Attack is resisted, so CHINCHOU should be able to tank this and reach the Thunderbolt. This Thunderbolt should just about take out the Altaria. Thunderbolt gets him low. One more spark takes him out. They have the very low health Medicham, and they still have the Galvantula. Galvantula is able to farm down, able to incinerate down, and leaves with the Poison Fang on 1 HP. Poison Fang takes out the Medicham, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, picking up a tough lead, Salazzle into Umbreon. While this is a type-neutral matchup, due to the massive difference in bulk, this is a very difficult matchup for Salazzle. Salazzle is going to commit the shield on the foul play and fire back with a Poison Fang bait, hoping to try and grab a shield. Poison Fang goes unshielded. That is not great. Umbreon is going to be able to outpace Salazzle, committing the final shield against the Umbreon. Salazzle farming up, firing off the Dragon Pulse, really hoping for a no shield here. Dragon Pulse does get shielded. Salazzle farms up, and a very nice switch into Lantern to catch the foul play. Lantern is going to tank that, no problem. Lantern will be met with Medicham. Lantern will be able to outpace and fire off the Surf before Medicham is able to reach the Psychic. Surf does a solid amount of chip damage. Medicham overfarms and is going to fire off the Psychic. This Psychic will put the Lantern into farm down range as Medicham is able to farm down. Medicham, unfortunately, does have some residual energy, and that is bad news. In comes Chinchou. Chinchou going for the Bubble Beam, but loses CMP on the Psychic. This Psychic is going to do massive damage onto the Chinchou. Chinchou barely able to hang on, firing back with a Bubble Beam, and it's all up to Salazzle. Salazzle going for the farm down, able to get it. That is big. Back in comes Umbreon. Salazzle going for the Poison Fang. Hopefully can Poison Fang and farm down. Going for the farm down. In the back, it's Nidoqueen firing off the Poison Fang, needing to grab a shield from Nidoqueen, and does, but not going to be able to reach the Dragon Pulse. That is quite unfortunate, as unfortunately Salazzle gets farmed down short of the Dragon Pulse, and that will be game over. Nidoqueen takes out the Chinchou, ending the win streak. Hopping into the final match, leading Salazzle into Galarian Stunfisk, and this is going to be a very tough game. Salazzle staying in, dealing big Incinerate damage, and a beautiful catch, catching the Rock Slide onto Chinchou. Chinchou easily able to absorb that damage, and is going to need to spam out Bubble Beams, but the opponent returns the favor with a catch of their own, catching the Bubble Beam onto their Trevenant. That is quite unfortunate, because Trevenant absolutely walls Chinchou here, and Trevenant can very safely shield nothing and farm all the way down. And it looks like that's exactly what they're going to do. Chinchou continuing to spam out Bubble Beam after Bubble Beam. This Trevenant is now going to be triple debuffed here. Trevenant looking for the farm down. Switch Claw comes up and an aggressive switch back into Salazzle. Salazzle fires off the Poison Fang. Trevenant commits the shield. Salazzle gets the free Incinerate. That is massive. Trevenant fires off the Shadow Ball. They're going to stay in, and they get farmed down. Back in comes the Stunfisk, firing off the Poison Fang right away, starting to ramp up that Incinerate damage. They're going to fire off a Rock Slide, going to be committing the shield on the Rock Slide, needing to get this Incinerate damage off, as the Incinerates are adding up and able to win CMP, firing off another Poison Fang. Opponent doesn't have to shield this, and they're going to let that go, but this sets up a perfect farm down for Lantern, and hopefully Lantern will be able to handle whatever's in the back. In comes Lantern. In the back, they have Azumarill and even up a shield. Azumarill does not like this matchup whatsoever. Azumarill fires off a Play Rough. Lantern able to tank that, no problem, and is going to fire back with the Thunder. This will do a ton of damage if it lands. Azu commits the shield. Lantern continuing to farm up. Switch and a beautiful catch onto Chinchou. Absolutely incredible. Down goes Chinchou. Back in comes Lantern. Lantern going for the Thunder. Thunder is going to be doing massive damage onto the Azumarill. Lantern able to farm down the Stunfisk and clutch the narrow victory. All in all, some incredibly fun Spice battles in the Great League featuring XL Chinchou. XL Chinchou doesn't even get up to 1300 CP, so being able to run it and actually get some wins with it in the Great League is a pretty cool accomplishment. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.